Story 1. I am 62 years old with a full head of long hair that is not gray. Story 2. I hope it's not. I'm a widow with a child. It happened when I was 28. I'm 30 now. Story 3. I experienced the suicides of 5 people close to me by my early 30s. Story 4. I am 32 and became severely disabled at 29 after a healthy, active life. Story 5. I am 43 but still pass for my late 20s or early 30s. People think it is a blessing to look younger. But the truth is that when everyone my age was out fooling around, making mistakes and finding out who they were between ages 16 and 22, I looked 10 to 14 and missed out on all of it. Now I have a severe lack of confidence and experience. Story 6. I don't know how abnormal this truly is, but at 25 I love watching older movies and even some black and white television shows such as The Twilight Zone, The Munsters, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and others. I have seen every episode of Mobile Army Surgical Hospital and Gilligan's Island. Most people my age have never heard of them and will not watch anything in black and white. Story 7. I have been to more funerals than the number of years I have been alive. I am 36. Story 8. I am 50 and most of my friends are younger than me, between 30 and 40. I certainly do not feel my age. Story 9. I'm crippled as fuck. I've had arthritis since childhood and was finally diagnosed at 28. The rheumatologist said I was the second youngest patient she had seen and that if I had been diagnosed as a child, as I should have been, I would have been the youngest by a long shot. It started when I was 6 or 7. I have fibromyalgia too, which seems much more common in younger people these days. I've made a supportive network of other people with disabilities, so it feels like there are a lot of us. But when I'm out and about with my peers in real life, I realize how affected I am. Story 10. I am 33 and still live with my parents. I am looking for better work and my confidence has been improving, so if I am lucky, I will move out in the next few years. Story 11. I am 28 years old, and I do not have a car. I always walk with my backpack over my shoulder. Story 12. I am 44 and just got my driver license for the first time. Story 13. This probably shows how much I enjoy staying home instead of partying. I have the chill level of a retired grandfather. Story 14. I am 46. Both of my siblings are deceased due to unusual medical complications and cancer. My wife and I own our home and all our vehicles, including my motorcycle. Story 15. I am 26 years old. I still live in my childhood home. I have a full-time job, but I am struggling to find a career. I do not know where I would be without my mother. When she is gone, I want to go with her. I am sorry you are feeling this way. If you are thinking about harming yourself, please contact your local emergency services or crisis line now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 for support. Story 16. I am 22. I do not drink any alcohol and I find it very hard to get into mature video games except for Grand Theft Auto. Story 17. I moved into an assisted living facility at age 50 and a few months. Story 18. The fact that I am still in my 30s living with my mom and I have a master's degree may seem unusual, but many people in Generation Y and Generation Z are in this situation to the point where we have to accept it. I am not telling people in my position to give up or shaming anyone. I strive to live comfortably, but it is getting harder and harder to reach my financial goals. Story 19. I had a baby 6 weeks before my 44th birthday. Took 7 years to get her here, and I have never been happier. Story 20. I have zero debt other than my car, which will be paid off in 2 years. It is at 4.99%, and I just got the car in January. Story 21. I am a healthy 24-year-old man. I received a pacemaker when I was 20, which pushed me away from people my age. It is always strange when older people tell you to sow your wild oats in your 20s. I feel like I have had to endure a lot and assess my values more than most people my age. It has matured me beyond my age group in many ways. Story 22. 1. At age 53, I look much younger. My whole life people have been shocked at my age. A few weeks ago, I was getting my blood drawn and the phlebotomist looked at the screen with my date of birth, looked at me and then looked back at the screen. He said no way before even saying hi to me. I have only one or two gray or silver hairs at any one time. 2. I have severe chronic pain, but I look fine on the outside. I have the hypermobile type of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. My heels tilt my legs inward 18 degrees beyond the normal range, so I have deformities from the floor up. All my joints hurt and I am easily injured. My spine is degenerating about 20 years faster than expected for my age. Because I look okay, younger people expect more of me than I can do and are dubious of my condition. 3. Despite being what I have been told is beautiful, I have never been married or had children even though I have always wanted to be married. I have had long-term relationships but am currently single and not loving it. 4. I did not advance in my career as I should have due to my physical and emotional limitations despite my college education. I was never able to buy a home or earn enough to have a comfortable lifestyle. Never being married contributed to not owning assets that many people my age have. 5. I have never been abroad. Story 23. A 23-year-old white woman who has never seen the Barbie movie. Story 24. I bought a home as a single mother without finishing college at age 26. I am now in my 30s and my home is filled with a husband and another child. Story 25. I never got into the Grateful Dead. My favorite artists back then were Dr. Hook, Elton John, and anything disco. I was a professional roller skater. Story 26. I'm actually childish and joke around a lot. You only live once, so be normal and serious only when necessary. It is in my nature to be playful and have a laugh. Story 27. I am 14 years old. My divorced parents strongly dislike each other. My sister does not see our father because of family problems, and I do not know where to go. I know many people have been through similar situations, and I would appreciate any advice. Story 28. I am 25 and have been married since I was 23. My husband and I both hold master's degrees, have been in our careers for a few years, and have our own apartment. We have been financially independent and living together since I was 21. Most people our age are not married, still live with their parents, or are just beginning their careers. Story 29. I am studying various brain structures, how their activity changes under specific conditions, and the downstream effects within the rest of the brain. I am also studying how we can modulate our own biochemistry from a top-down level. I can confirm this is not typical because most people do not want to discuss the right anterior insula and how overactivity there can contribute to both bliss states and obsessive-compulsive disorder. Story 30. Mainly being on both metoprolol and diltiazem before the age of 30. Story 31. I am 34 and I happily celebrated my 13th wedding anniversary this year. We joke that we are the exception, not the rule, to all our friends who are just getting married, laughing out loud. Story 32. I'm only 22 and living with multiple chronic illnesses. I have to cancel plans often, and many people are not very understanding because I do not look sick. This has caused a lot of isolation and affected my mental health, but I am very lucky to have a supportive partner and family. There are silver linings. Story 33. I am 27 years old, not married, and have 2 children. I have just started my nursing degree. Story 34. Is collecting vinyl records at 17 a good idea? Choose your answer carefully. Story 35. I am 36 and I still watch cartoons religiously, especially Arthur, Tom and Jerry, and many great shows from the 1990s. Story 36. I developed arthritis in my hips at 33 and have been on a mobility journey since. I highly recommend daily stretching and hip and glute strengthening. It has been life-changing. Story 37. Maybe not for me, but for my stepfather. He is 53 and has a 9-year-old sister. Story 38. I have full responsibility and power of attorney for my mother in a nursing home. I am 33 years old. Story 39. I am embarrassed to respond, but it is due to financial reasons and a lack of planning. Story 40. I am living in a 1-bedroom studio apartment without any home ownership or preparation for retirement at 30. Oh wait, maybe that's normal these days. Story 41. I am 45 and have decided to go to university to study archaeology. I am preparing for my exams. Wish me luck. Story 42. So many things, but I don't concern myself with normal. What is normal? Story 43. I am 25 years old and have no children. I have never had any friends, which I feel is not normal. Story 44. I am in a wheelchair in my late 30s after becoming disabled due to an illness at age 28. Story 45. At age 23, I abandoned my parents after a decade of abuse. Story 46. I am in my early 30s. I have had chronic pain for the last 15 years. I recently found out I have a cyst in a very rare joint space. Story 47. I am 24 years old and I do genealogy and family history research. I find it a satisfying historical puzzle, and I have been doing it since the beginning of the pandemic. Story 48. It is normal for me but not for many people. My friends are on average about 20 to 25 years older than I am. Story 49. I am in my early 40s. I have artificial lenses in both eyes because I developed cataracts in my late 30s. Story 50. I am 17 years old, and I have had chronic back pain since middle school. It is hard out there, man. Story 51. Approaching 30 and jobless. Sucks, but I guess that's life. Story 52. I don't know if it's normal. I'm 62 and started microdosing APES. I feel so good. I finally had a partial trip. It felt really cleansing. I was always so anti-drug. I changed a lot in my 40s, but my 20-year-old self would have been horrified. Story 53. I became a parent at 18 and I am now 35. There have been hard times, but the happy moments have been the best. Story 54. I am in my 60s. I hike in the mountains every day. I only need to shave once a week, and I have never seen a Star Wars movie. That is more personal information than I have ever shared on social media. Story 55. I am 19. I do not have a big social circle and I do not spend weekends partying. That is what I see people in real life do. However, I have seen many people online my age who are similar to me. I guess it is becoming normal now, and I do not know whether that is a good thing. Story 56. Technically, the first person identified with this mutation is Jo Cameron. She is on Wikipedia. She was identified in 2019. I realized I had it 2 years ago and have been in discussions with geneticists for about a year and 4 months. Exciting stuff. Story 57. Almost 60, single, without family, career, money, or any hope of retirement. Story 58. I had scarlet fever as a toddler and became deaf in one ear. Story 59. I am 22 and have never been in a relationship or had any kind of romantic interaction with anyone. I don't know why that surprises people when they ask me. Story 60. I am 26 and I am only 4 months into my first relationship. Story 61. I am a millennial who owns a house. It is the second house I have bought. I had to sell the first one when I moved from the Midwest to the East Coast. Story 62. I became chronically ill at 35 with a spinal disease that is the most disabling thing I have ever experienced. Story 63. I am 50 years old, 6 feet tall, and weigh 170 pounds. This is roughly 10 pounds more than I weighed when I graduated from college 30 years ago. I can still bench 250 pounds, which is more than I could do in my 20s and early 30s. I keep up to date with recent rap releases and look forward to them. I listen to new rap records constantly. My friends, who were rap enthusiasts in the 90s with impressive collections, stopped listening to new music after they left college. Story 64. I am pretty old and do not take any medications at all, except for coffee. Story 65. I bought a house at age 25 by myself. I grew up with a poor single parent, dropped out of college, was making roughly $30,000 a year, and had been dealing with untreated depression since high school. I experienced a couple of months of intense, manic motivation during the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic, just before the housing market skyrocketed. Looking back, I have no idea how I managed that level of luck and determination. I have been desperately trying to find it again ever since. Story 66. I am 27 years old and live with my grandparents. I am so far behind emotionally, experiencing a failure to launch, that I do not know where to start. I am losing out on good opportunities because I cannot sustain them, such as relationships and savings. Is this normal? Am I tragically behind at 27? Story 67. I am 35 and I live with my dad. I feel like a loser, but a lot of people are living with their parents right now, so I do not feel as bad as I should. Story 68. Houses are not homes to me anymore, which is funny because I was overly attached to my second childhood home as a kid and had a very hard time with change. Now, as I approach 30, I have packed up and moved 7 times in my life, including to another country. Instead, it is the people who make a home, not houses, dorms, apartments, or basement suites. Story 69. I'm 32 and used to train 2 hours every other day, 40 minutes to 1 hour of cardio, then 100 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. I was the fittest and strongest I had ever been. For the past 5 months, I cannot walk 10 meters without severe chest pain. I have to stop, breathe heavily, and my heart races. I have constant chest pain even when sitting and resting. I cannot sleep lying down because of the pressure on my heart. I have to sleep sitting up. I am in pain day and night, exhausted and barely able to move. This is nightmarish. Story 70. I don't know about unusual, but personally, I have yet to meet another 23-year-old former heroin addict. Story 71. I own my house outright. I am in my 20s. Story 72. I learned the complete Morse code at 13, including the alphabet, symbols, and numbers. Story 73. I was essentially housebound at age 18 due to the long-term effects of coronavirus disease 2019. I could not do sports or even walk without resting. I had a very limited diet and could not go to parties or drink alcohol. Story 74. I'm 28. I have diverticulitis, diagnosed at age 23 or 24. I have no children. To me, that is not common, and I do not see that often. Story 75. I am 39 years old. I have never been on a date. I lost the ability to have an erection at 28. Story 76. At 19, my parents died and I entered the care system with no one to rely on. Story 77. I am 19 years old, living by myself and working with a large-scale internet service provider. My income, assuming I reach my target commission, is just shy of $50,000. I did just get this job, though, so that is an estimate. Story 78. I've been my wife's around-the-clock caregiver since she became disabled 8 years ago this Friday. I'm 38. Story 79. I am not a wealthy baby boomer. There is much buzz online that baby boomers are all rich. Even the American Association of Retired Persons reported that baby boomers own 53% of the nation's wealth. But it is also true that 1 or 2 out of every 10 baby boomers live in poverty. In some states, 10 to 20% of us are poor. Saying we have wealth does not account for the many baby boomers who struggle to afford housing. For example, I am a low-wage earner, and I have spent down my savings over the past 2 years to stay in my apartment. That is not my landlord's fault. This unit is fairly priced for the region, but it is a systemic failure of the entire housing industry. The forces that pushed rents sky-high have little to do with my landlord. Those forces are more closely tied to real estate developers and politicians working together to exploit people like me and you. I looked for a new, cheaper place for about 18 months and finally found one. I hope, over time, to replenish my savings, God willing. I still work. I have to. Believe me, Gavin Newsom is not thinking about the 25% of Californians who are poor when he dines with the wealthy to seek donations for his next campaign. Read a story from National Public Radio about how things can go very wrong after working for 45 years. This is why, young people, you should stop blaming baby boomers. At least 50% of us voted for Barack Obama and Kamala Harris. We are not your enemy. Story 80. My closest friend for the past 10 years is 87, and I am 37. I jokingly call her my spiritual guru. We talk on the phone about life and many other things a few times a week and have stayed in touch at least once a week throughout. Story 81. I am 32. I have no children, have never been married, and have not had a relationship that lasted longer than a year. Story 82. I am a 20-year-old woman and have never had a period because of an eating disorder I had when I was supposed to begin puberty. It is isolating to feel different from other women my age, but I have been doing everything I can for the past year to try to get a period. So far, I have not had any success, but I will keep trying. Story 83. I am 25 and I cannot figure people out. I have no friends. I think Bartonella inflames my brain, and then people think I am weird when I become scatterbrained. Whatever the reason, the result still hurts because I am a very caring person. Story 84. Triple coronary artery bypass grafting at age 44. Height 5 feet 8 inches. Weight 160 pounds. Ate a normal diet. Did not party excessively. Was athletic and physically active. Genetic factors. Story 85. With the way the world is now, I have a mortgage at 28. I would say that is not normal. Story 86. I am single, never married, and getting close to retirement age. I have had my fun along the way, but I never went through a nasty divorce or had to put multiple children through daycare or college. So I have no financial worries for retirement. I was also never the person who spent long hours in the office because his home life was awful. If that is normal, I do not want it. Story 87. I am in my mid-20s and have had part of my spine replaced, along with a small amount of bone removed from my knee. Story 88. I am 33 and one of the few men in my area who ride horses. Story 89. I have back pain. Am I the only one experiencing this? I'm still in my 20s. Story 90. I am 45. I always thought I would have children, but a combination of infertility and my husband's failed vasectomy reversal meant we never did. Story 91. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Despite being 30 years old, imaging of my spine suggests I am almost 60. Story 92. I'm 40 years old, in a happy relationship, and have a successful career. Yet I still spend my weekend nights until 2 a.m. or later dancing my heart out at clubs locally and around the world. No, Mom, I think it's safe to say that raving and electronic dance music weren't a phase. Story 93. I was born hearing impaired. You might not notice it right away, which made it harder for me to accept while growing up. I am 38 now and no longer ashamed of it. It is a part of who I am. Story 94. It is probably the stagnation in personal growth and the fact that I did not go to college like most of my peers. I sometimes feel regret, but when I see the crushing debt my peers struggle to pay month after month, I feel a bittersweet relief that I missed that train. Taking advantage of young people by saddling them with crippling debt for a degree that may or may not lead to higher pay is one of the most damning things our society has done. Story 95. I am 36 years old and a virgin. I have never had a girlfriend and do not put much effort into finding one. Story 96. I am 21 and feel like I was born in the wrong part of the country, especially because of the way I dress. Boots, pearl snaps, and Wrangler. I live in the Pacific Northwest. Story 97. Being 27 and getting divorced doesn't feel normal. I feel like I'm still a baby. Story 98. I'm 20 years older than my youngest sibling. My sister is a 4-year-old aunt. Story 99. I am almost 30 years old. I do not watch television or movies. I have been a single homeowner for a few years. Story 100. I am 28 and have never had a real romantic relationship. It is very isolating. Story 101. I have a relatively rare autoimmune form of spinal arthritis that usually affects older women. I am a man in my 30s and have had it since I was 20. Story 102. In my mind, I am still a kid. Sometimes I am a scared 7-year-old searching for someone to hide behind. Sometimes I am a confused teenager who should know some things, but doesn't. You would never know it. Then again, this may very well be normal. Story 103. I like alt-rock music, not classic rock. I went to see Modest Mouse last week with my son and daughter-in-law. None of my friends had ever heard of them. I am 67. Story 104. My little brother and I were our parents' primary carers until I was 16. They were separated, so my brother and I would call 2 to 3 times a week to talk about logistics for both parents' care. A holiday meant my brother and I could stay under the same roof for a couple of nights. Usually I had arranged for my mom to stay at her father's for a bit so I could stay with my brother and my dad. We would take care of my dad until bedtime and then spend the night getting to be kids for a while. It always confused my friends when I said my parents could not punish me for bad behavior. You cannot take away dinner when I am the one who made it, and you cannot take my phone because I had my mom's calendar on it and needed to be in contact with her doctors. Story 105. I'm a 60-something, well-educated, married executive parent, and I love going to actual dive bars. If there is a punk band, even better. Story 106. After I turned 50, my husband left me and became involved with drugs and with a drug addict. He went to jail twice on possession charges, lived on the street for 6 months, and later went to prison. I stayed in a shelter, got a job, and moved to West Sacramento. When he got out, the drug use started again and he was evicted. I then went to stay with my mother in Sacramento without him. Thankfully, I have been clean for nearly 9 years and I live in my own place. Story 107. I read a lot of Mary Higgins Clark for someone who is under 60. Story 108. I got married when I was 18, and it is the best thing I have ever done. Now I am 21 and have a 1.5-year-old baby, and we are already planning a second child. I have never been so happy. Story 109. My son has twin uncles who are 15 days younger than he is. Story 110. I'm almost 30 and I feel more lost in society and in my life and career than I did at 18. Story 111. I am 37 and have a child in college. I have been married since I was 19. Much of my adult life has not followed the typical timeline. Story 112. I have traveled the United States in a travel trailer for 4 months. It was very expensive but totally worth it. I also just started a new lease on a house that is directly on the riverfront and has a dock. A rare find. Story 113. I have had chronic knee pain since I was 15. My 91-year-old grandmother has better knees than I do. According to X-ray images, I am fine. Story 114. I hate feeling old, but when I think about 43, I don't feel like my brain or the way I think is that old. Story 115. I am 28 years old and I have no living relatives except my great-grandmother, who is 91 years old, her brother, who is 89 years old, and my daughter, who is 1 year old. Story 116. I will be 19 in December, and I am very good at mental math. I could not think of anything out of the ordinary. Story 117. I am 40, and I think my age finally surpassed the number of surgeries I had about 4 or 5 years ago. I am not sure, though, because I lost count of how many surgeries I had nearly 30 years ago. Story 118. I've been estranged from my family for almost 6 years. I'm 23. Story 119. I am intentionally still a virgin and proud to be. According to a chart, fewer than 10% of people my age are that way. Story 120. I am 44 and have been on disability since I was 29 for severe mental illness. Story 121. I am almost 33 and have just moved in with my father and his family, along with my 2 children. In 2 months, I will earn my first college degree. Story 122. I am 25 years old. I paid off my student loans last year. I still live with my parents. I have enough in the bank to afford a down payment on a mobile home or a fixer-upper in a not-so-great neighborhood right now, or a nicer house with another 6 to 8 months of saving. I have never drunk soda, coffee, or alcohol. I have never had sex and have started several fistfights to keep it that way. I regularly go to concerts featuring musicians more than twice my age. I have never owned a car with an automatic transmission. Story 123. At 35, instead of finding a real-life girlfriend, I still look at mild content online or on YouTube and fantasize. I know even people who have girlfriends or wives probably do the same. I'm just kind of picky, so it's hard to be satisfied with potential matches, and the nice women I like don't seem to like me in return, even though I'm a nice guy. Story 124. I took up the banjo at 58 and had never played a musical instrument before. The only class I failed in college was an introductory music class. Postscript. I love it. Story 125. I do not know whether this is normal, but from what I see around me it does not seem so. I am a 41-year-old woman who has never been married, does not have children, and has never lived with a partner even for a day. I have been single for 17 years. Story 126. My mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's when I was 23. At my first support group meeting, everyone thought I was there for a college paper. I wasn't. Story 127. I went from living on food stamps last year to making over $300,000 this year. I am 29 years old. Story 128. I just turned 19. I own a house and I am worth about $2.5 million, all inherited upon my father's passing. Story 129. Cooking every meal from scratch like someone twice my age. Story 130. I need to sleep with both my parents at night. I am a 16-year-old boy. Story 131. I am a 27-year-old male, essentially retired and living a comfortable life in Cambodia with my girlfriend because I receive a disability pension from the Australian government. I am a dual Australian and Canadian citizen and I have lived overseas since I was 21. Story 132. I do not work 5 days per week. I work only 2. I do no cooking and only minimal cleaning. I am happier than most people I know. I guess I am lucky. Story 133. I am 14 and apparently very mature for my age. No, I am not grooming. Story 134. I am 37 years old and I'm more fit now than at any other time in my life. I still eat like a 5-year-old and party harder than almost any college student you will meet. Story 135. I am 45 years old, have never been behind the wheel of a car, and have no desire to learn. Story 136. I am 41 and have been running a household since I was 11, when my parents separated. My father gained custody of us. I am the oldest. I ran the house, cooking, cleaning, and managing it while my father worked full-time and drank at the local bar every weekend. I moved out at 18 and into my own place. This is not a pity post. I am content and at peace with the cards I was dealt. I find it unusual that I have been running a household for 30 years, and I am kind of tired. Story 137. A 33-year-old who underwent open-heart surgery and has a mechanical aortic valve. Story 138. I have a 15-year-old child who will graduate from high school when I am 36 years old. Story 139. I'm almost 40, but I still get carded when buying alcohol. It happened yesterday. Every month or two I'm mistaken for a college student at work. I don't think I look that young, but maybe I seem young at heart. Story 140. I am a 20-year-old junior in college with a baby face that makes me look 15. It sucks. Story 141. I am 35 and have not been in a relationship for 15 years. I have a driver's license with multiple endorsements but do not own a car. Story 142. I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at 21. Many people say it can be reversed and I have tried, but now at 30 I still have diabetes. Story 143. 18 to 20-year-olds consistently try to date or be friends with me because they think I am their age. I will be 29 in a few days. Feels strange. People my own age or older assume I am a teenager, so I am treated that way and have a harder time earning respect. Story 144. I was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease at 23 years old. Now in my mid-30s, it has actually improved a lot. They said I had the spine of a 60-year-old man, but magnetic resonance imaging scans now barely show anything. I have many other conditions I was considered too young to have at the time. Friends are starting to catch up with me. Story 145. I am 24 and divorced. The marriage was a complete sham because he used me for a visa, and I did not realize it until the end. Story 146. I am trying to conceive in my early 40s. We have been trying for a few years but have experienced a miscarriage and unsuccessful in vitro fertilization attempts. Story 147. I am apathetic toward everyone in the world at 29, even toward myself. Story 148. My father died when he was 50. I was in high school. I have multiple chronic illnesses, and I am not yet 28. I have been to 16 funerals that I can remember, including extended family, friends, and pets. I had 3 close calls at school where a shooting or a bomb could have occurred, but they were false alarms. I was At school, when my brother experienced a separate false alarm, they were worried someone might shoot them, but it did not happen. Once I was at Walmart when the power went out because of a severe storm. My state had 3 or 4 tornadoes this year within about a month of each other. I have had hearing loss since I was a toddler. Story 149. I'm 19. I work relentlessly in a life that feels endlessly mediocre, and I neglect my desires because of that. Story 150. I am in college a couple of years later than most people, and I feel younger than my classmates. I was homeschooled and am very extroverted, so my teenage years felt stunted. I am only now, years later, beginning to live a full life. I relate more to people in my class than to people my age. I feel both behind and ahead of where I should be in different parts of my life. People are genuinely shocked when they learn my age because I appear and feel at least 6 years younger. Story 151. Am I the only one here who loves listening to songs from 2000 to 2010? Story 152. I have a well-paying job with a lot of responsibility where the stereotype for my role is a grizzled, bearded old man with decades of experience. I am not even 30 yet, and people old enough to be my parents call me sir, so I have been having a significant quarter-life crisis. Story 153. At 41, I don't have a spouse, children, or a driver's license. I've also traveled to 31 countries, visited every continent that is commonly accessible, set foot in all 7 seas, and worked for more than 20 employers. Story 154. I am only 14 years old, but I talk, eat, and drink like an old uncle. For example, I like to sip my cup of tea until it runs dry. Most of my friends take one mouthful and then put the cup down for another 5 to 10 minutes. Story 155. I value quiet time and stability over parties or social events, which seems unusual for my age. Story 156. I have severe anxiety related to post-traumatic stress disorder. Cannot drive at all. I do not have a license or a car, and I cannot use public transport. I do not have a job. I am studying online through distance education. I have only ever had one job, as a Christmas casual retail worker for 4 months several years ago. I am 27 years old. I find this very embarrassing. Story 157. I do not know if it is uncommon. I hope it is. I have been cutting myself for over a year. I am 15. My mother still has not found out because she would be mad at me. I am sorry you are going through this. You deserve help and support. Are you safe right now? If you are in immediate danger or have a serious injury, call your local emergency number or go to the nearest emergency room now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 for support. If you are not in the United States, tell me your country and I will help find local crisis resources. Consider reaching out to a trusted adult, a school counselor, or a health professional. I can help you make a safety plan or find ways to get help if you want. Story 158. I am 24 and my closest friend is in her 60s. I have no friends who are in my age range. Story 159. I am 24 years old and living with my parents. I have not graduated and I am not working. I am trying to figure things out. Story 160. I am raising 3 children who are my siblings. Although our parents are present, since childhood I have felt like the only adult in the house. As I get older, I act more childishly because I want to feel like a child, at least a little. Story 161. I am permanently disabled by 2 chronic conditions that have already destroyed my career before it could even begin. Story 162. I am 21 and am now coming to the end of my opioid addiction and tapering off methadone. I was addicted from ages 15 to 19, but I guess this may not be unique. Story 163. I have never been in a relationship, had a first kiss, or had sex. I am a 28-year-old male. Story 164. I do not have contact with any of my relatives. I am celebrating 7 years free of insanity. Story 165. I read more children's books than adult novels. Somehow they make life feel simpler and happier. Story 166. I'm 23 and work at the cemetery. I have no relatives. I live with my girlfriend and our animals. Story 167. I am 33. My husband and I have owned our home for 4 years. Story 168. The number of health issues I have as a teenager is overwhelming. I wish I were the young, healthy little whippersnapper older people think I should be. Story 169. I am 47 and still stay up late. I am not a wild partier. I am simply a night person. I stay up until 1 to 2 a.m. on weeknights and 4 to 5 a.m. on weekends. Story 170. I am 30 years old, but I am already grumpy like an old man and I yell at clouds. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.